Welcome back. In the workshop this week, we're going to take a very quick look, a quick overview, if you like, of Erbauer's EPT1500 planer thicknesser, jointer, planer thing. It's coming up next. Oh, kind of loud, huh? This isn't a review, and let me explain why. I've only owned this for about 5 weeks. I haven't talked about it at all. It appeared tangentially as a bit player in the IKEA Beckvam step stool video that I did a few weeks ago. I've literally had this for about 5 weeks. I had it in its box for about a week. I took it out of the box. You've seen all the timber that I've run through it. And then I just got on with everything else. I've been away for a couple of weeks and now I'm back. I've never had so many questions about a piece of gear that's appeared so incidentally in a video that I have about this one, and I'm still getting questions about it even now. So I thought I'd better put all those answers in a quick video. It's not a review because I haven't had it for long enough. I haven't used it enough. But I just thought I'd explain my reasons for buying this one and give you some very, very early impressions of it, bearing in mind I've only used it for about a day. Okay, this is Erbauer's EPT1500. It's a 1500 watt planer thicknesser. Let's deal with that to start with. We call these planer thicknesses. So we've got a cutting head in here with a couple of blades in it, and when we pass a board over the top of that, we call that planing. If you then take that planed face and put it against the edge of the fence and plane the edge of it, we call that jointing. Then we can take that board and put the planed face flat against the bed underneath the blade and put a board through that, so we get a planed face that's parallel to the face that's already planed. We call that thicknessing because we're bringing the board down to a specific thickness. And then you can also take that board out, make the space a lot bigger and thickness that board on edge so that you get both edges perfectly parallel as well. That's where the planer thicknesser part comes in. You can buy machines that are separates, that just do planing or just do thicknessing. A benchtop or lunchbox planer or thicknesser is a popular thing to have because it does take time to switch between the thicknesser mode and the planer mode, and there are pros and cons of each, and maybe we'll touch on those a little bit later on. But to start with, let's get into why I bought this in particular. And the short answer is it's the cheapest new machine of this capacity that you can get here in the UK at the moment. Let's deal with why buy new to start with. Lots of people ask me, well, why did you buy this instead of keeping your eyes peeled for a decent quality used machine? I've been keeping my eyes peeled for a decent quality used machine for a long time, and the ones that come up so infrequently and are so far away that they're almost not worth bothering with. Prices tend to be around the sort of £400–500 mark for a 20-year-old machine, and maybe they're great and maybe they're not, but they almost always need or require a sort of 150–200 mile round trip just to go and see these things. This is the first machine of this type I've owned, first one I've used, so I don't really know what I'd be looking for anyway. And the other headache is that even if the machines are in fine fettle and running well, they don't have any of the current safety features that you actually do, strictly speaking, need in a commercial workshop like this. It might be different if you're working from a garage at home as a hobbyist, but in a commercial workspace like this, I do try and stay reasonably current with the health and safety regulations. As a new machine, it has little micro switches built into the dust extraction hood here to ensure that you've got that extractor and blade guard in place when you're running it as a thicknesser, and vice versa when you run it as a planer. That's the primary reason. The other thing is, this costs £220. Not actually that much money, it's still a decent chunk of change. But for a brand new machine with a 2-year warranty from a company with a good exchange record, we'll hold that thought, we'll come back to that shortly. There's nothing else like it. There is a slightly smaller capacity. In fact, Erbauer used to make a smaller capacity machine than this. I can't remember the model number, but it was similar in terms of specs to the Titan planar thicknesser that you can also get from Screwfix. And the Titan is, I think, about 160 quid. I paid 220 for this, so that's what, about £60 more expensive. And that £60 gets me a 10-inch 250mm planing bed and a 200mm thicknessing bed. I think the Titan is a 200mm and 120 or something like that. So, you know, a useful increase in capacity for only another 60 quid. I think, like all entry-level tools, you've got to deal with a certain amount of quality control yourself. And I did have a few issues with this when I first got it. In fact, I posted a few little snippets of video about this before, and I'm going to run some of those now, just so you see what I'm talking about. Don't think it's really safe to use it with one hand, is it? Oh, good Lord. I just spent about 10 minutes on the phone to Screwfix, to their customer services people. They're very polite about it, but, you know, no question, take it back, exchange it, whatever, refund, anything at all, except they're insisting that I take it apart again. I just spent yesterday building the flipping thing, and now I've got to take it apart. Doesn't matter if it's not in a box, they say. So what's the point of that? Just give them back a complete unit like this, then everything's together. Oh, we don't have space to... I mean, it's not about space. It's not making it any smaller by taking it apart. But Screwfix insist, apparently, that it's got to be taken apart to be returned. Otherwise, if I didn't do that, it wouldn't come back onto my account to be refunded. Yes, deeply frustrated by the response from Screwfix. I posted a couple of bits of this onto Instagram, and I've had a couple of people contact me because, you know, they follow me and they are involved in the Screwfix retail stores at the coalface. Sort of, you know, they tell me that the managers of the individual stores have a lot more discretion than the senior management may, or certainly the senior management at the customer services desk may suggest, and they say that, yeah, basically they'll take pretty much anything back in any sort of condition, as long as you've got proof that you bought it from them. So maybe that was an option. Anyway, the main thing is it wasn't functioning right, and I really needed to get this stuff thicknessed. So let's just say it came alive. It absolutely did not include taking the side of the machine off and poking about with the wires in there or anything like that, because that would be foolish. But it started thicknessing, and it works really well. So yes, as customer experiences go, it's kind of unsatisfactory. However, it is working now, and I got to say, I cannot fault the quality of the finish that you get from it. Again, early days, I keep repeating that, very, very early days, but it planed and thicknessed this very dense oak, some Adigbo, and some Sapele without a murmur, produced an absolutely stonking finish. No problem at all in that regard whatsoever. And I've got to say, if you're in the market for a planar thicknesser and you want something of this capacity, then there's nothing else quite like it at this sort of price point. Let me spend another couple of minutes just going around a couple of things that really irritate me about it, and then we'll just wrap this up and call it a day, I think. So a couple of things on this that are a little bit annoying. One is the fence. It's really quite flimsy. It's not well attached at all. It is surprisingly square, but it's not great. And one of the things that I will be doing is trying to find a way to mount the fence on there better. It's also kind of short. It's distinctly shorter than the actual bed of the planer, which seems a little bit silly. But there you are. Yeah, that's one of those things, entry-level machine like this. The thing that really, really bugs me is This is a blade guard, very important obviously that you have the guard in place when you're using it as a planer. So when you're moving a board over the top of a blade, over the top of the cutter. When you convert it to a thicknesser, obviously you've got the dust collection and the blade guard shroud in place. You need to be able to adjust the height of the thicknesser bed, and the blade guard gets in the way. And the only way, short of taking it off, which would be a really bad idea, the only way to change that is to put that all the way down with the blade guard sticking right out. Now you can turn the handle and alter the height of the blade guard. But of course, you know, I walk into that all the time. I'm constantly catching myself on this because, you know, small workshop, you've got to walk around it all the time to get the board through, and you need to be there to catch the board as it comes out. Maddening. All of that nonsense could have been resolved, could have been taken away simply by adding an inch to the length of this little handle. That's all it would have taken. And it's the most ridiculous thing. It's almost like they've designed this thing but never actually used it. It's just crazy. Drives me potty. Absolutely do not recommend that you take this off, but I think I will be making a slightly extended version of this little handle in order to be able to use it. With the blade guard up there, because that's literally all it would take. You need another 20 or 30 mil, an inch, on that handle stem, and that would be it. So yes, apart from those little niggles and the obvious little niggles that we had earlier on, there's not much more I can say about this really at this stage. Very early days, so the initial impressions are favourable. There's certainly nothing quite like it at this price point with this capacity. So if you're in the market for a 10-inch 250mm planer and a 200mm thicknesser capacity, this is the only game in town unless you want to add about half as much again to your budget or more to get one of the other models that are visually similar to this. Do check the specifications of those though, because on some of them, even though they've got the same capacity for planing, they have less capacity for thicknessing. If you don't need the 10-inch planer, then the Titan may well be worth a look, because it is £60 cheaper. But so far so good with this. Obviously we'll be revisiting this in future after I put a few more boards through it and give you some more considered opinions about it, but initial impressions are favourable so far. That's it for this week though. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out my other channel if you're interested in a little bit of travel or vloggy type stuff, or maybe photography or a little bit of tech or whatnot, cameras and things. It's called A Maker's Eye. It was launched this week. There's only one video up there at the moment. There'll be a few more to follow on that, but check that out if you think that may be of interest to you. But that's it for this week. Thank you so much for watching. As always, thanks to my Patreon supporters for their support on this channel, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care.